Un día en nuestra vida. This Monday, we started by heading down to Legazpi, which for some reason I always want to mispronounce. Legazpi is a barrio in the district of Arganzuela, just south of Centro. To the south, the natural edge of the barrio and district is Madrid's main river, called the Manzanares, and on the banks of the river is a park. On Monday, we were on the stretch of that park. There are some amazing parks in Madrid. Some are old and famous, like Retiro, which is like Madrid's Central Park and used to be a park for the royal family, but became a public municipal park in 1868 following the Glorious Revolution. But that's for another video. You will hear me say this a lot if you watch more of these videos, but one of the things we love about Spain in general and Madrid in particular is that Spain invests in its infrastructure. While Spain is by no means a monetarily rich country, it builds plazas over parking and new parques for paseos. But back to the dia at hand. The first stretch of the Parque Lineal de Manzanares was built circa 2003. It has lots of markers, so you know how long you've gone down your path. My poor husband Scott has to deal with me stopping all the time on our paseos to take what I believe are lovely pictures of our time spent together. I am often exasperating, I know. It's a good thing he loves me and generally enjoys spending time with me. You will notice in many of my videos that there are pictures of him walking ahead of me, or sometimes looking at the camera with an air of frustration. But we moved to a city with hills and lots of escaleras, which he enjoys making me climb. We often use Google Maps when walking in new areas. But know that there is Google Map time, and then there is Lissa taking pictures while en route of Google Map time. The latter is what takes place on many of our walks. There's no apple trees, like the name of the Rio would suggest, but there is an olive grove and some unexpected features, like the small maze of shrubs. Spain keeps much of its culture alive with the fiestas en las calles, and some of the buildings and structures in Spain date back to the Roman era. Pero al mismo tiempo, Spain continues to reinvent itself with urban planning that I consider to be muy listo, or you might say very smart or clever. If you are interested in going down a Spanish culture, architecture, historical research rabbit hole, I'll add some links down below. You will also notice in my videos that I'm somewhat obsessed with signage. A veces, the signage is funny, but mostly it's informative, like this one, which tells you when the parking was opened. Much of the Rio around Madrid was channelized, and there were even some locks to make the river navigable at one point. They are still there, but now serve as bridges to walk across and no longer for the use of barcos. Back in 2016, the city began an ecological renaturalization by opening dam gates, reviving native wildlife, and now there are areas where the river flows naturally. Even though you see a lot of planned, almost manicured areas of parkland in this video, this is where the river flows naturally. It looks more like a stream or a brook, but it is still the only river that flows in the city of Madrid. I am constantly surprised that in a huge metropolis like Madrid, you can still find pockets of tranquility. The bear climbing the strawberry tree is the emblem of Madrid, and you will see it everywhere, like on the guardrail of this bridge. Another thing I love about the parques in Madrid are all the fuentes. Whether it's a water fountain for drinking or just for viewing, I love a good fuente, and Madrid has plenty. Unfortunately for this park, there was an aspirational fountain built, but it lies idle, devoid of agua. We call it the sad fountain. It lies at the foot of the first mirador. This was built to be the pump station through which the fountain would get its water. The first mirador that we climbed was atop the artificial hill that is called La Atalaya. We timed our ascent to be early enough in the day that we were not making the climb in the full heat of the day, which is important because there is no shade on the mirador until you reach the peak. On the top of the hill is a really cool metal structure called La Dama del Manzanares, also known as Cabeza de Aradna. There were some fabulous views along the way, so I had to take more photos. La Dama was constructed of bronze and steel and is based on a design by the Valencian artist Manola Valdez. It is an imposing figure measuring 13 meters, over 42 feet, and weighs approximately 8 tons. We spent some time up there enjoying the shade of the statue with a family that had the same idea. And oh my God, from this viewpoint, you can see so many Madrid landmarks and even an outline of the mountains to the north. Our descent from La Dama was down this wooden staircase, for lack of a better term. Very different from the winding path up the Mirador, this reminded me of the steps of a pyramid, but made with wooden beams and patches of grass instead of stone. A veces, I would look back up the giant cabeza, longing for her sombra. The shade that we enjoyed when we were up top was sorely lacking, and it was getting hotter as the afternoon progressed. Still, it was an impressive stairway. The grass had been freshly mowed. You might notice some little dots on this section of photos. That is because the gnats were enjoying the fresh cut grass. Madrid is usually devoid of bugs, but the side of this hill was an exception. At the bottom of the hill, we found a great patio de juegos, known as a playground in English, plus exercise fields for adults. The second mirador had more shade and was seemingly more natural, but we both agreed it was not as satisfying as the first viewing spot. You could see a tiny bit of the Rio if you squinted. The top of the mirador was pretty underwhelming. but you did have a good view of the Madrid tennis center known as Caja Magica, or Manzanares Parque Tennis Center, which has been hosting the Madrid Open Tournament since 2009. After the second Mirador, we were both ready for lunch as it was already past 2 p.m., the starting time for the standard Almuerzo Español. We decided to find a local cafeteria instead of going home, and I'm so glad we did. It was a typical Madrileño August afternoon, aka muy caliente. We didn't think we would find any place with decent air conditioning, but we were pleasantly surprised. The restaurant we found was an Ecuadorian place called Bar Restaurante La Cabaña. Spain is known around the world for tapas, little plates of food that come with something to drink. And it's a fabulous tradition. I love sharing food. But the Menú del Día is probably my favorite Spanish food tradition. In 1965, every Spanish restaurant that served lunch was required to have a Menú del Día, which meant that there would be a starter, a main course, sometimes bread, a drink, and a dessert or coffee. The requirement was repealed in 2010, but many restaurants, even ones that don't serve traditional Spanish food, continue to offer a Menú del Día. Most places in Madrid have a Menú del Día that will set you back between 15 to 23 euros per person. Sometimes the Menú del Día is written on a chalkboard in front of the restaurant. Sometimes it is printed. At Bar Restaurante La Cabaña, it was just recited by the waiter. We were seated in the back room and the menu was simple. The primero was a choice of 2 sopas. The segundo was a choice between 2 rice dishes plus a bebida and a postre, all for the price of 12 euros. After lunch, we took the metro back to Chambéry. In Chambéry, there are some glorious, glamorous calles with fabulous fuentes. But our plaza, developed in the 1950s, is more modest. It has 2 lovely playgrounds, plenty of seating, a fuente, and if that wasn't enough, every summer they open a makeshift biblioteca where people can borrow books or daily papers to read in the canvas sillas on the plaza. So, in the end, Monday was just un lunes normal in Madrid. There is so much to do in our new ciudad. I always say, if you're bored in Madrid, that's on you, because there is always something going on, and much of it is free. If you enjoyed listening to me blathering on about un día en nuestra vida, please let me know. Give a thumbs up, subscribe, ask questions about Madrid and or Spain. I don't pretend to have all the answers. Hell, I don't even have a grasp on la lengua. But I've got an inquisitive mind and a husband who loves to research all things España. So, venga conmigo en mi aventuras en España.